Where are you right now, Mike?
I'm in my hotel room.
Oh.
I'm about ready. As soon as this ends, the second this ends, I am leaving for the course.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Can you give us an idea of what the menu was last night? Anything interesting last night?
Last night, I never ate dinner. Do you want to know where I was?
Yeah.
Okay. I was at I was at a party last night for a private aviation company. I don't know if I can give the name because I don't want to conflict with one of your sponsors. But Ricky Fowler and Charlie Hoffman were there and hung out there early and then headed back.
So that was the Wheels Up party?
Yes. I just didn't want to hurt any sponsors. So
No.
I wanted to be, because I know the show is obviously supported very well by corporate America, and I didn't want to step on anyone's toes.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate that.
No, it's serious. I didn't consider it.
Yeah.
You're a friend.
Well, that's all that we wanted to talk to you about. Just want to know how your night was last night.
Thanks, Dan. Have a great weekend. I appreciate it.
Tell me, we were talking about this yesterday with Dustin Johnson, even this morning here, that, the feel is, well, it's the Masters. Like, you got to tough it out somehow. And I was listening to David Duval on the Golf Channel last night, and he said, I wish I would have listened to my body. And I'll bet you Tiger would say the same thing. Dustin Johnson, with the way he plays, I think did the right thing. He listened to his body. I can't modify my game. And then you can really get hurt. And he did the right thing. But what was the consensus, do you think, yesterday?
I agree. Sometimes you get frustrated by watching 24 hours nonstop coverage of cable news or of events because there's no time for context. You're just figuring it out as you're watching it. And we were on Golf Channel on the Live From show, and we were trying to figure out what was going on with Dustin Johnson as he's warming up, and we're watching him warm up, and well, it looks good. Oh, wait a minute, he's going back to get something's wrong. That swing didn't look good, and you're looking for grimaces on his face when he's hitting a wedge, and it could have been heartburn. I mean, you don't know what it is, but you're trying to read into it. And I think as you saw it go on more and more, you never saw him just comfortable with what he was doing. And I agree with you. Here's the fork in the road, if you will. Dustin Johnson might never come to the Masters in better performance shape with 3 consecutive wins, number 1 in the world, as confident as he has ever been playing golf. He may never be at that spot again. So you want to play this tournament in that mode, in that mindset. So why give up so easily? Well, because there were smart people around him, like you said. His brother and Butch Harmon, who I think his voice was very huge, being straight shooter. Look, if you're not right, you can't go. It's a prudent, it's a smart choice. It's a long-term choice. And at the end of the day, although frustrating and disappointing, I'm sure difficult for him, I think I'm agreeing here with you. I think he did absolutely the right thing if he didn't feel right about it.
I didn't get the perspective in the moment when I'm watching Charlie Hoffman play, but then when David Duval and Brandel Chambly, Frank Nobilo said, that's one of the greatest rounds in the history of Augusta. Why is that?
Because it was 10 shots better than the average score. 10 shots. I mean, look at the guys who shot 73, 74. So it's one thing if a guy makes a bunch of birdies, if he holds a 40-footer, 35-footer, makes a 28-footer for eagle, then you go, oh, my gosh, this guy just has putting boots on. He putted out of his mind. But it was everything with Charlie Hoffman. He was in play. His approach shots were close in the wind, given the difficulty of the wind. And, Dan, you've been here a whole bunch, covered it, been to Augusta National. When it's windy, it's so hard to get the ball to the right spot. It was explained best by Colin Montgomery on one of our shows earlier this week. On a regular tour event, you may have a yard or maybe 5 feet of an area where you're trying to aim for to hit a ball. At Augusta, that gets shrunk in half. So imagine that plus the wind, and you see like Jordan Spieth making that 9. You just have to be absolutely spot on with every yardage. And he was. And given that it was 10 shots better than the average for the field, there's only a field of 93 guys now without Dustin. That's why they said that. And Charlie said that last night. I did get to talk to him last night. And he's really been a good ball striker in the wind over years. And it shows in the tournaments that he's won, the conditions that he's won in. So he's very, very confident playing in the wind. We'll see if he holds up today. But I agree with those guys. That's about as good as you can do given how tough it was for one individual.
Talking to Mike Tirico on loan from the Golf Channel today, joining us from Augusta. The boys wanted to know if you could have 5 wins in a year or one major.
One major.
What if
For me,
okay.
Just like, can I give you a good one? Just real quick.
Okay.
I saw Sean McKeel in the press center as I'm walking through. He's doing radio for the BBC. And immediately, I think of his shot at Oak Hill when he won the PGA Championship. And he's a PGA champion for life. For life. That's it. There are a lot of guys, not a lot, but a significant number of guys who won multiple tournaments, or even 5 in a year is a lot. But that one major changes your life, not just in terms of the amount of money you can make in endorsements and appearances over the years, but it just changes who you are. My line, Dan, is always, and I bring it out 4 weeks a year and then put it back in the computer. 48 weeks a year, these guys make a living. 4 weeks a year, they make history. And you remember the major champions. You don't remember what Lee Trevino described to me once as the guy who won the screen door open. You have no idea who won that 15 years ago, but you know who won majors in 2003 or whatever, 2002, 15 years ago.
You know that Rinaldi just wrote that line down, and that will be used later today with a piano accompaniment with Tom Rinaldi.
Rinaldi and Nance together.
Hello, friends.
That's the combination you need to go for.
Hello, friends. I also wanted to ask you about this with John Gruden leaves coaching. He gets fired by the Buccaneers and eventually goes into the booth with you, Monday Night Football. Right. Big stage. Right. We know that Tony Romo is going to be going in with Jim Nance. Big stage. How much how many simulated games did you do with Gruden before he did Monday Night Football?
So I think it's a little different, and then I'll answer the question.
Okay.
Jaws was still there. We had Jaws. It was the three of us for 2 years, and I think that entry ramp, that on ramp to the main job, helps significantly. I think that'll make it a little bit tougher for Tony, but I think he'll be really good at it. He may not be as good week one as he will be when those guys call the AFC Championship game, but I think he'll be really good at it. What we did during the off season, we watched games. John watched a lot of broadcasts. We probably did maybe 2 or 3 games off of tape and in a studio, just calling in a voiceover booth. But it's never the same because you're not looking at the field. I'm trying to think. I don't think we did a practice game at a preseason game. I know we did with Kornheiser and Jaws when we and Joe Theismann, when we first started. So there are ways you can get reps. You can get maybe 3 reps in a studio or more, and a couple of reps at preseason games before you do actually even one preseason game on the air or your first regular season game. So you can get that, but again, until it's live and it's your show, it's just not the same.
What is the biggest hurdle that Romo is going to have?
Where to look. As a quarterback, you know what you're doing. You're reading your keys, but are you looking for different things that are going to set up the next replay? How do you communicate what you're seeing and make sure that the production truck is seeing the same thing that you're seeing so the replay comes up? Because if you wait 2, 3, 4 seconds, you're not going to get the best replays to explain what happened on a play. So do you have great football people in your truck? Do you have a great set of eyes? And are you looking for the same thing? That's one of the magic things of John Gruden and Jay Rothman, who produced Monday Night with us, or now that I was around them this year and saw them work, Chris Collinsworth and Fred Godelli is the Sunday Night Football producer. They know what they're looking for. They see the game in similar ways. So when Chris is looking for something, or Freddie's great knowledge of football is the producer for almost a quarter century of primetime network coverage, those guys know what they're seeing, and that right replay comes up right away. That's a huge difference maker, and that's where that biggest learning curve comes with an analyst and a play-by-play and a producer. Excuse me.
And also, I've tried to tell people that when you tell a coach or a former player, hey, speak for 25 seconds, they have no idea what 25 seconds is because they've never been measured in sound bites, like how long you can go and not go. Now, all of a sudden, you're in the booth or even a studio analyst, and somebody says you got 15 seconds. Then all of a sudden, you better get to the point and do it in a way that everybody understands it and then get out. Right. I find that really difficult for these guys.
And you've seen it with analysts that you've worked with in the studio, and I think in the game environment with the crowd going, statistician over there, a spotter over there, play-by-play guy, producer in your ear, trying to draw with the telestrator, all that stuff, that just becomes even more difficult because you're trying to say it in a short soundbite. I will say this, Dan. I spoke to Tony, and we spent some time together Super Bowl week, and I knew that he was considering this. I think he'll really do well. there are very few people who I think could jump right into a number one chair. And over the course of the year, you're not going to judge them in the first week. We all get better as we go. I think Tony will do really well. Jim's obviously one of the most comfortable people you could ever work with, and very friendly, so that'll be easy for them. And Tony is uniquely qualified because he's been the Cowboys' quarterback. So do you think criticism on Twitter is going to really bother him at this point? I mean, the guy's had everything, including who he was dating and what that date was wearing in a suite watching a game. He's had that criticized. So he's going to be fine with all that stuff. He's smart, telegenic, well-spoken, knows how to handle the media. I think he will do just fine. It's tough. It's not going to be easy, but I think at the end of the day, it'll work out just fine.
Have some fun today, Mike. Great to talk to you.
I will try. Have a good one, pal.
Thank you, buddy.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.